Hello, my beauties. I'm coming in to talk about the highest self and specifically how I connected with my higher self. And so how that looked over a 10-year period following an invisible path, and how I tune into that kind of line of communication so that may be of some support for you. So basically, 10 years ago, I was on a fertility journey. I was kind of 3 years in, I would say, and I had 2 miscarriages during those 3 years. And it was like the deepest level of grief that I've ever experienced in my life. It really kind of brought me to my knees. And before all of that, I had lots of health issues, endometriosis, underactive thyroid, lots of other things, but generally lots of health issues. Was not in a good place. Didn't feel like I was following my soul's calling, and was basically in a job that actually felt like it was crushing my soul, to be honest. As a retail buyer, trying to make people buy things that they don't actually need was just very soul destroying for me. I've been told by a mentor that I was born awake, and I basically have been in the spiritual closet for the majority of my life. Where I come from, it's especially like growing up, it's not something that you talk about. Oh, I feel energy, or I see things. It's just not something that you talk about when I was growing up. So when I had these 2 miscarriages, I knew that I needed to change something. Something needed to change, and for some reason, I decided to go and have Reiki. I don't even know where that came from, to be honest. And after a couple of sessions, one of the sessions, I actually came out and I was walking back to my car, and I had this, or heard this voice very, very clearly, very distinctly say to me, you need to go on a solitary meditation retreat. And I was just kind of looking around thinking, no, where did that come from? Because although I had a yoga practice, a physical practice, I did not have a meditation practice. So going on a meditation retreat by myself just felt like really bizarre thing to hear. It definitely wasn't my usual voice, my egoic voice, which sounds very fearful. This was like, you need to go on a retreat, and I was like, okay. So I started to research, ended up going on this solitary retreat, was in a hut by myself on the south coast of the UK for 3 days, kind of going a little bit stir crazy because I'd never been alone for that length of time, and was kind of freaking out by myself for 3 days. But when I came out, I got in the car and I drove home, and that voice came back very clearly saying, you need to quit your job and go and do your yoga teacher training. So as I said, I got a yoga practice, and started to research doing the whole kind of yoga teacher training. At the time, my husband then got a job at Lego, which was based in Denmark. So I quit my job in retail. We moved to Denmark. I did my yoga teacher training, and I've kind of been following this invisible path ever since. It's like, if you've ever seen Donnie Darko, he's got this there's this tube that leads from his belly and he kind of follows it. It kind of feels something like that. There's this pull, there's this knowing, it's a deep, deep knowing that just sits in truth, and it doesn't matter what's going on outside, like this whole societal norms. There's a truth, and you feel it when you connect with it. And so I've just kind of been following that invisible path, did my yoga teacher training, then kind of got introduced to essential oils, but like really on a therapeutic level as opposed to from a smelly point of view, but really started to heal my body. The endometriosis has gone. I no longer take medication for underactive thyroid. That's all gone back to normal. 2 things that I was told that I would have to live with for the rest of my life. And I just kind of have followed what I've been guided to. The essential oils have been really supportive on an emotional and an energetic level. I've been kind of following the energetic path, did my energy facilitation kind of coaching. So it's kind of like theta healing. We go on lots of consciousness journeys, really go into the consciousness and the energetics of things. And I am now currently doing my Reiki level 2. So I've been kind of following things that have not seemed logical to myself or to anybody else. It's like, there's this deep pull to, even though, it was Reiki that actually got me listening to my higher self, it's only 10 years later that I started to do the Reiki healing, the Reiki training. And so that's kind of how it's all unfolded. There's a lot more to it, but, just kind of the crux of it, starting with a deep level of grief. I then cleared out the channels, cleared the energetic body, and that seemed to switch on the voice, that connection to the higher self. And I've been reading a lot or watching a lot of Bashar. I don't know whether you've seen anything around this spiritual entity. He's got loads of stuff on YouTube. He's just incredible. I love him. Very forthright. That's kind of like what my higher self is very, very much like. Very sassy, very forthright. They don't mince their words at all. Unlike, my physical self. They're just like, it's like that. But the way that Bashar explains the higher self is like, it's like you've got twins, you're twins, and one twin is on the mountaintop looking down and can see the whole valley, can see where the other twin is. The twin is down in the valley, and they have this two-way communication. They communicate with one another, and that is basically what is happening. So your higher self is just outside of your physical being. It's still a part of you. It's your highest version that's connected to source. It's connected to that higher perspective, and it gives you the information, and you receive that information on a physical mind level. And then you translate that in however you want it to be translated. This is kind of how I experience it. And so what has helped me to keep that clear communication going is a daily practice. So connecting with the feeling of gratitude and love and compassion. And that seems to kind of open up to that connection. Clearing the energetic channel. So I use oils specifically to do that. There's a particular protocol that I use to do that. And having that conversation, asking the higher self to support, to give you guidance. And that is basically higher self connection and communication and relationship. And so I will be, in the next week, we'll be relaunching a program that I did. It's called The Oracle Within. It's a 21-day portal, and we will learn how to activate the higher self and how to connect with the higher self on a daily basis, along with tools that are going to support you to grow that relationship. My son's just walked in with his iPad, so I think my time is done now. So I'm going to be sharing more information about the Oracle Within, so stay tuned. And if you have a connection with your higher self, I would love to know how that works for you.